Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Traps Tuesday Toots. Today we're going to go over several items all at once. So, what we're going to talk about today is strong power sources. And let's get going. All right, so over here we already have this line that tells us how far the redstone signal travels. So, let's go ahead and use this to demonstrate. So, first we're going to show that a redstone block can be a signal source that does power up to 15. You can see this one is still glowing and little particle effects are coming off of it. This one is not. So this is a full signal strength block. Now a lever is also a full signal strength source of power. It will do up to 15. The same thing goes for, it'll be a little bit harder to demonstrate, but we're going to go ahead and place a redstone lamp at 16, which is going to show that power gets to 15. So with that, we can show that we get a full signal strength all the way down, as you would expect. Same thing with a stone button. Same thing with a wooden pressure plate and a stone pressure plate. However, a gold pressure plate is a little different, as is an iron one. We'll get into that in a little bit. Another full strength signal source is going to be a tripwire hook. You can see the lamp is in fact on. Now tripwire hook requires 2 tripwire hooks and a string in between. You can do a large number of strings in between and it will still function. The maximum length that the string can be is 40 blocks. So you could have 40 string in between the 2 tripwire hooks, and anything passing in that block will in fact trigger the tripwire hook. Now the signal is going to come out of the block that the tripwire hook is connected to, or out of the tripwire hook itself. So you can come straight out of the tripwire hook if you wanted to. Generally, most circuits I've seen would have the signal come from the block, because generally the tripwire hook idea is that you're kind of hiding the circuit, but it will work either way. Daylight sensors are another source of power. And at the right time of day, you will actually get a full signal strength of 15. However, that will vary depending on the time of day. We will go over daylight sensors in another video in a more depth. But that is something to know. Observers also will give a full signal strength of 15. As you can see from this, obviously that's just continuously flicking. Normally a observer will only do a 1-tick pulse, which is a very fast 1-tick pulse whenever the block in front of it changes. We will go over observers a little bit more in another video as well. Lightning rods will also give a full signal strength of 15 if they are struck. As you can see, when a lightning rod is struck by lightning, it will in fact briefly give a full signal strength. A skulk sensor will give out varying signal strengths depending on the amount of sound that they experience, which means that they can give up to a full signal strength, just depending on what's going on. We will go over skulk in another video in more depth. This also applies to calibrated skulk, again, depending on various factors. We will also go over calibrated skulk in a later video. So the big ones that we're really going to check off the list today are going to be pressure plates, buttons, levers, and tripwire hooks, as well as redstone blocks. So let's get into some more detail about some of these items. First of all, buttons are actually different. Now, all kinds of stone buttons will work the same. So if it's a black stone button or a stone button, they're going to work the same. Same thing with wooden buttons, whether it's an oak button, a birch button, warped stem button, they're all going to work the same. However, stone and wood buttons work differently. Wood buttons will give 1.5 seconds worth of signal, whereas stone buttons will only give 1 second. So it just depends on how long you want that signal to be active, whether you use stone or wood. Certain circuits will be affected differently depending on how long that signal is in fact active. So that's an important thing to note. Now, wood versus stone, pressure plates actually have some different things. They both will activate when you step on them. or when a zombie steps on them. So mobs can activate pressure plates, as can players. That said, items will not activate a stone pressure plate, but items will activate a wooden pressure plate. This also includes arrows. So arrows will not activate a stone pressure plate, but they will activate a wooden pressure plate. This is also true of buttons. Stone buttons will not be activated by arrows, wooden buttons will. Gold pressure plates and iron pressure plates work similarly to stone and wood pressure plates. However, they require more weight in order to put out the same strength of signal. So if we place a zombie in here, we can see there's only one signal strength. If we place a second zombie, we get a second signal strength, and so forth and so on. So basically with the gold pressure plate, each zombie will equal one extra signal strength. So that works for mobs. So you can actually figure out how many mobs are in a single square. The iron one, however, requires quite a few more mobs in order to equal each signal strength. So for the iron pressure plates, each signal strength requires 10 entities. Now, because entity cramming starts at 24, you would never actually be able to get more than a signal strength of 3 with creatures. However, with items, you could, in theory, get a stronger signal strength if you have enough items. However, getting that many items into a single square would be difficult. So I honestly don't know what you're going to measure with an iron pressure plate beyond a certain point. However, it would be useful in order to get about 20 mobs into a single block and then start redirecting to a different block. If you wanted to get the maximum number of villagers into a single square before redirecting the rest of the villagers to another space, or if you wanted to get the maximum number of creepers in a single square in order to make a big pile of charged creepers without having entity cramming and then moving the rest to another space, things like that, it would come in very handy. Now, it is important to note that the redstone block and the observer are the only power sources that can actually get moved. So redstone blocks can actually get moved by pistons. As you can see here, I can push this forward and back, and that's just fine. I can also push this up and down, and that's just fine. However, it is important to note that because of quasi-connectivity, once this goes up, it will never go back down, because this is still quasi-powering this piston. It's obviously not actually powering it, but because of quasi-connectivity, it is powering it. However, if you wanted to send a redstone signal up and be able to retract it, what you could do is just use an extra block in between, which does mean this has to be a block height of 3 to 4 instead of 2 to 3, but that will work. And you can also obviously put as many blocks in between as you want, so you could have a redstone line that goes up and just has a couple of redstone blocks in between, and that would activate it. So that is how redstone blocks work. The only other block we haven't talked about is going to be your target blocks. They do create power, however, they do so dependent on where they get hit. And you can hit them with anything that is a projectile. Obviously, I'm using snowballs right here. And you can see sometimes I'm getting a full signal strength, and sometimes I am not. And so that's how they work. Dependent on how accurate you are will determine whether or not you get a full signal strength or how strong that signal is. All right, so we have gone over all of these. I'm going to go ahead and mark off redstone blocks, levers, stone and wood buttons, stone and wood pressure plates, lightweight pressure plates, i.e. gold pressure plates, heavyweight pressure plates, i.e. iron pressure plates, and tripwire hooks. I am not going to mark off, and we will talk in more depth, about observers, lightning rods, skulk sensors, calibrated skulk sensors, target blocks, and daylight detectors. And we already have covered redstone torches. If you want to link to that video, look at redstone tutorial video number 3 in this series, and you will find out everything to know about redstone torches. There we go. Those are marked off right there, that middle row right there, and that block right there. We also have these 3 already blocked off from before. So we are chugging along. Now, one thing to note, there has been an update. We now have these little bad boys right here. So we're not going to talk about these today, but we do need to add these to our redstone list of things to talk about. Autocrafters are an amazing thing. Stay tuned. We will get to them eventually, and you're not going to want to miss it because they are one of the more powerful redstone things in the game. That is going to do it today. Thank you so much for watching, and don't get trapped without me. Bye-bye.